Why do I feel like it's been a while since we've been on the road together like this? I mean, yeah, I think it's been a while. What's this now? Don't do that. Copyrights, man. So today we are in one of those cars that will make us fight if we get divided opinions. You know, on this channel there's democracy. We voice our opinions, we are divided at some point, we agree with each other at some point, but in this case we need a dictator, and I'll be the dictator. That this is a beautiful looking car. On that one, we're not going to argue. Like the previous Kia that we had, it was the Sportage, the green one. If you didn't watch that video, you need to go check it out. We didn't argue on how it looks. Like that one, this is the same. This is a beautiful looking car. Man, this design is quite stunning. So we're not going to argue on that. All right, that's sorted. Let's do things the right way. Welcome to the channel. It's We're Behind the Camera, and I appreciate that you're here with me today. So we are in the Kia Sorento SXL, which is the top spec variant of the current lineup of the Sorento in the country. That means you get all the bells and whistles that you can get in a Sorento right now. It's powered by a 2.2 liter CRDi engine. No, let's simplify that. It's a turbo diesel engine from Kia, and it's good for 148 kilowatts and 440 newton meters of torque. This engine is available across the lineup. The lineup consists of 4 variants, which is EX Plus 2-wheel drive, EX Plus all-wheel drive, SX, which is all-wheel drive, and then SXL, which is all-wheel drive. The prices in this case start from 880,000 rands for the EX Plus 2-wheel drive. Then you get to 920,000 rands to get the EX Plus but all-wheel drive, and then you get to 985,000 rands for the SX. Then for this one that we are in, you will part with 1,065,000 rands. I can hear some mumbling there at the back. Hey, a million this and that. No, relax. Still gonna put it down as to why this thing is $1 million. Okay, let me breathe first, then we'll talk about it. Okay, now let's go back to the design part that I spoke about. I mean, if you're going to bring a car and charge people more than 800,000 to $1 million, or more than $1 million in this case, you really have to find a way to greet them with that presence that says this actually looks like $1 million. And that's one thing I feel about this car when I'm approaching it. The presence that it has, it's quite amazing. I mean, when you're approaching it, just when you're looking at it from the front, wow, I mean, they've done a great job. It is this, like, it's a boxy shape, but it's not necessarily a boxy shape because it has some curves. At the same time, just looking at the face, for me, it's amazing. I like this 3D effect on the grille as well that continues inside the light cluster, the main light clusters. Just the DRLs, the way they are as well. Angular, but not too much to a point that it's like killing the shape. I don't know how they've done it because I'm not a designer, but I just like, it's not simple, but at the same time, it's almost simple. The gloss black, the way that they've used it, together with the grille, just on the side as well of the bumper, I like how it's connecting together. This car is actually quite stunning. Coming to the side, one thing I like about it is that the proportions are quite nice. I like that. And it's supported as well by these 19-inch rims. I think the 18s are quite small, especially on the EX, but when you come here with the 19s, this wheel arch is quite big. So when I'm looking at it like this, it supports it so well that it makes the proportions much better, especially when I'm looking at the height and the length, because there's this thing about 7-seaters sometimes that makes it to look a little bit extended at the back. But in this case, because of where that like the rear wheel, where it is right now, where it's placed, I feel like they put it so nicely that it's even hiding that it's a 7-seater until then you look at the size and you're like, oh, this thing is almost 5 meters. But because then the wheelbase is stretched a bit, so that makes it to look proportionally much better. Because if I look at other 7-seaters, for example, like the Tiggo 8 Pro, and I look at the Mahindra XUV 700, you'll see that the wheelbase is just above 2.7 meters. It helps a lot in terms of the proportions of the car. Well, don't mind me not putting the hands on the steering wheel and so on. I'm just showing you the ADAS system, how it works, so that when we're going to talk about it, you know what I'm talking about. But let's carry on. And I had some people saying, yeah, it has this American inspiration and so on. When I'm looking at it, it's because of the chrome. I mean, Americans love chrome, especially in the top spec vehicles. And here it was used. When I'm looking at how it was used on the window trims, at the bottom down there as well, there's chrome. And I'm looking at the fact that it's meshing together with the rims as well. So I understand where people are coming from when it comes to that. Going to the back, man, they've done a great job in designing this car. I mean, someone even said, oh, it looks like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. And I was like, okay, I didn't see that. But I understand, maybe because of the vertical lights as well in design, because when these lights are illuminated, then they are like vertical instead of, normally a lot of cars are horizontal. But when I'm looking at it, the design thereof, hiding this exhaust and so on, I think we're used to that by now. And yeah, seamless, I can't complain. This is a beautiful looking car. I'm still letting it drive itself. I just put my hands when I feel like there's like error here and there, or it's telling me to put my hands on, because the ADAS system in here includes adaptive cruise control, so I don't have to be worried. It will adjust to the car in front of us, and you can see it's doing that. I'm not necessarily doing anything right now. I'm just sitting in here making sure that it's actually making the right decisions. But this ADAS system does bring some element of confidence with it. As much as if I was to compare it, for example, with the Mahindra XUV 700, I wouldn't say it's as precise. Okay, let's pass this squid. I've seen it enough. Then we can talk properly. So yeah, as I was still saying, compared to the Mahindra, I think if I was to choose between the two, just based on the adaptive cruise control, lane centering and keeping and everything, that Mahindra is a notch above this one. And my reason is that the Mahindra, the centering, that thing is precise, is on point. I feel like it does the job quite well, that you're just confident almost all the time. And here, my only gripe with it is that it pulls more to the left and not necessarily keeping the car in the center all the time. It pulls to the left, and I understand maybe that's how they set it up, that it doesn't push to the right, because cars are also coming from the right hand side and anything can happen. I mean, this is just a machine at the end of the day. But because of that, I'm more comfortable in the Mahindra than in here, because I always feel like I'm on the edge of the road when I'm in here, and in the Mahindra it's just almost all the time in the center. Alright, let's turn this thing off and drive. But this thing has a host of features. I mean, this thing is packed to the core with features. It does not lack. You know when they're saying lack, this thing does not lack. There is a lot of features in here. You've already seen that blind spot monitoring system, the way it does it. I mean, you can see it from the mirrors. You can also see it like from here. Like if you ever change a lane in here and claim that you didn't see a car coming, I don't know what you were looking at, because either you use the mirrors, which are going to tell you that the car is coming, the camera system as well, it's showing you here, and it doesn't lag. I mean, Mahindra, the XUV 700, it has the same system, just that the lag in that the quality of the cameras, the ones that are used for blind spot monitoring, is not necessarily as clean as this one. And also in terms of the vision and how big they are, it's not the same. This one is much better. Also, on this head-up display, there's more information that is telling you about blind spot as well. I mean, there's just no way you're gonna miss it. And one thing you'll appreciate, this is mostly about Asian cars, is that once you pick a variant, that's it. You get everything that comes with it. You don't have to go and add mats that are looking like this and that, and it's always an advantage. I mean, this thing comes packed with these features at that particular price point. You don't have to add anything else. This 10.25 screen includes navigation, comes standard when you're picking this variant. We're talking heated seats, ventilated as well, which is not something that you're seeing every day combined. I mean, this steering wheel as well is heated. We're talking memory seats for the driver here, wireless charging, I mean, ambient lighting. We're talking lane following assist, lane keeping. I've already spoken about that. Around view monitor. We're talking about the Bose sound system. We're still going to touch on that. You know that for sure. We're talking about this head-up display as well, panoramic sunroof. These things are part of the package. You don't have to pay extra for them once you get this car. And the last thing is that it doesn't matter which variant you go for, when it comes to safety features, active, passive, you get a host of features at all variant levels. And all this contributed to the 5-star rating that it got from the Australian NCAP and Euro NCAP as well. When I'm looking at the airbags, we're looking at the normal ones in front, we're looking at side, we're looking at curtains as well. Then a whole lot of other stuff that normally you don't even care about, like electronic stability control, you know, hill start assist when it comes to downhill assist as well. There's also a trailer assist as well, driver attention alert, which helps a lot in telling you sometimes that, you know what, maybe you need to take take a break, or are you focused or not, especially when you're leaving the steering wheel like I was doing. I'm sure it's saying I'm not necessarily that focused, depending on, sometimes what I've seen as well, if you're on a traffic light and a car in front of you is gone and you are not focused, it does alert you that the car is actually pulling away, so you need to go. So those are the kind of things that you'll get as well. There's quite a lot of tech that they put in here that is quite impressive as well. That's the grant that you get from this 2.2 liter turbo diesel. I mean, it's paired to an 8-speed DCT, and yes, the communication is quite amazing. The pair is going well together. I mean, if I'm thinking about some of the diesel engines, especially when it's about to get just close to the red line, even before it gets there, there's this, then it's like it's locked, then it pushes the next gear. It doesn't do that here. It changes the gears the way that I would love a car to change gears, not feeling like I'm forcing it whatsoever at any given point in time. And that's something that I like about it. The only thing is that it's not as punchy. Moving from standstill, you feel like it's not necessarily that quick. Yes, when you're looking at the speedometer, you're like, okay, I'm seeing that I'm getting closer to 100, but it's not as quick. I mean, if I'm at a traffic light with like normal cars, I'm talking normal cars here, I'm not necessarily going to fall behind if I try to move as quick as possible. And especially because this is an all-wheel drive, it doesn't feel like the power is just being fed to the front wheels or the rear wheels and it's struggling to get traction whatsoever. It's not feeling like that at all. So it just moves, just that it's not as quick. But that's not the reason why you would be in here, because this is where it shines on the open road. Hey, once this settles down to the speed that you want, let's say you're just moving from 0 to 100, once you get to that 100 and it starts cruising, now you're starting to feel why this car is where it is in terms of the price point, in terms of everything else, because the level of comfort that it gives you, and the suspension setup together with the tires, those are helping a lot in terms of the comfort levels, because you have McPherson in front, you're talking about multi-link at the back. Multi-link, it's independent, it's helping a lot in terms of that, because it can like get rid of these imperfections on the road when it comes to balancing the car at the back. It helps a lot when it comes to the tires as well. The aspect ratio is 55. We're talking 19 inches is what, 235 I think, 55 R19, so it's not low profile tires, reducing the road noise as well. Everything else, the insulation in here, I can't even complain about it, because once this engine is quiet, it goes to its cruising mode, almost everything feels quiet in here. Even if you're not playing the sound system to actually counter that, a lot of it is quiet. It's just that because the car is quite long and so on, there is some wind noise that I'm getting in here. It's not necessarily annoying, but when you're considering that a lot of things are quiet at that point, you get that wind noise to be a little bit much more than you're expecting. I never had a reason to actually drive this car spiritedly, because this car is as sensible as cars can be, and I'm enjoying it like that. I'm enjoying it like that as a cruiser, one that you're just, you're just so sensible when you're in here. As much as it has driving modes here, like you can put it on sport, you can go to eco, normal. I just prefer putting it on smart, because then it responds to how I'm driving. If I'm trying to pull away as quick as possible, everything is assuming then that, you know what, you are trying to be as spirited as you can be. It adjusts to that. When you're cruising nicely, it's also responding to that, you know what, we are tapping into eco now. When you're trying to overtake, put your foot down, it responds immediately with that as well. I'm not even complaining with the table leg in here, especially when it comes to the size of the car and the weight as well, because this weighs, I think, more than 2 tons or just about there, and it's long. So you can imagine right now in terms of that, you feel that it's long actually when you're taking curves, and if you're taking it like a sharp curve a bit and you're going in hard, you can feel the tail that, you know what, it's trying to shift, and that all-wheel drive is coming into the party and giving you the grip. Otherwise, the tail was just going to be left behind. I promise you that this thing is so long, especially when taking curves, going in hard. But when you're taking them as sensible as you can be, because that's what the intention of this car is, I can't complain there. Another thing that I appreciate so much, especially when I'm on the roads like this, is the under thigh support. Every car should come with under thigh support, guys, because on these long journeys, you really need it. By the time you get there, under the thighs, you feel so tired when you don't have the under thigh support. But in here, I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for this, Kia. It's much needed. Talking about open roads, support, everything else, you know what you do when you are on that long journey road trip with your family and so on. You need a proper sound system. I'm quite impressed with this sound system. Before I even play it for you, it has a Bose sound system with 12 speakers. Where we are sitting right now in front, there's like 7, I think. Yeah, 7. There's like 3 on the dash, 2 on the side, just on the A-pillars there, and then there's 2 down by the doors. And then in the rear, there's just 2 here, down by the doors, and then there, back there by the third room, there's also 2 there, and then there's a subwoofer there. That's the 12. Let's see how it goes. But we don't just buy these cars to drive them on the open road like this. In fact, a lot of people are going to use them to be taking kids around and so on, considering that it's even a 7-seater. In that case, I'm not finding it to be an issue, because when it comes to the vision, number one, assistance is amazing in here. I mean, the around view monitoring, these cameras are crisp, they're clean, they show you what's happening. The cross traffic alert, it works, believe me, it works. I once reversed and a car was coming a little bit from far. It braked automatically, it detected that the car is coming. It helped in that case. And when it comes to parking it and so on, it's quite long. That's one thing. Maybe if you're not necessarily good at side parallel parking and stuff, you might have an issue. But because of the assistance that you're getting in here, I don't necessarily find myself having to complain, because moving around with it, I didn't find any issues. Even when I was navigating tight circles in those like streets that are not necessarily that open, I didn't find myself complaining a lot. I just found myself as comfortable as I can be. The steering wheel, quite supportive in how it turns. It comes back easily. I'm not finding myself complaining about the calibration thereof. I think one thing maybe that bothered me a bit, which is not necessarily that much of a big deal, it has hill assist, but I don't find it holding because it rolls. When maybe you're stopping where there's a hill a bit and you want to move forward or backwards, I find that you have to catch it with the accelerator as quick as possible. Otherwise, you feel that roll. Just minimal roll. I don't know if it was going to hold or what, but I always just catch it with the accelerator. That's just one thing that bothered me a bit, especially because I don't like using the auto hold. I feel like it locks the car and you have to force it out of that lock. And as much as this is an all-wheel drive, it has terrain management system as well here that you can change from mud to sand to snow. I never really felt like taking it off-road because, you know, when it comes to Sorento, the roots of the Sorento actually, it started with leather frame where you could say it's an adventure vehicle. But right now, I feel like it's not necessarily one for those. I feel like this AWD is more for traction than going off-road and doing those hardcore things. But as heavy as it is, it's quite impressive that it averages below 8 liters to 100 kilometers in here. I did over 730 kilometers with this car on this test during the week, going up and down, open roads and so on, and I averaged 7.5 liters to 100 overall. That's quite impressive from this diesel engine. Look, I deliberately excluded the interior design and feel when I was talking about the exterior earlier on, because I want to touch on how this car makes you feel. And I feel like the interior is contributing a lot to that. And I think it's Kia's biggest selling point, especially when it comes to the cars that I've looked at recently, being the Sportage and the Sorento. You know, the concept of we can have two white t-shirts, right, that we're wearing. And from far, maybe someone might say, those guys are wearing two white t-shirts, they're the same. But I promise you, if one is coming from a proper raw materials that are quality, when you get closer, you're just going to see it before you even touch them. And when you touch them, you're going to tell that this one is going to outlast this one because this one is coming from inferior materials. I promise you, that's something that Kia has done in here. When you get in here, you clearly can see the choice of materials, the choice of plastics that they've used. When it comes to the design overall, they managed to capture it to a point that I think the ambience that is being created by the interior is giving you those premium vibes, and you get that's something that you can't just do. I mean, you can put all the features in a car, you can put all these nice things, adaptive cruise control and all these things, but design matters a lot together with the choice of materials. And in here, I'm impressed. I mean, they've done a great job in capturing what you must feel like when you're in here, because it brings a positive feeling from the moment you touch the door panels, the seats, the adjustments thereof, quite amazing. The center console as well, when I'm looking at it, the leather that is being used, the piano black that is being used, the chrome beads that are being used in here. I mean, the steering wheel as well, this leather is quite soft. It's amazing the way it feels. Looking at the design of the screen as well, because they have this dark effect in them, both of them, together with the piano black, they work so well together. I mean, a lot is being considered well. Looking at the buttons as well, the way they're covered in these metallic bits as well. I don't know if it's plastic, but it feels like quality as well. Coming to the back, in fact, going to the passenger seat as well, just to look at it. I mean, these adjustments that are here, I love them because you can easily just move the passenger seat. Again, coming to the back, they didn't just ignore it. The leather seats as well, they do look like quality. They feel like quality as well. Looking at the design overall, you even have these shades at the back, the sun shades or privacy shades for you, for whoever you're traveling with, so that you can be able to just say, you know what, I don't want people to see what's happening at the back. You can't do that. I mean, when it comes to practicality as well, it was carefully considered because this is a 7-seater. The spaces, I cannot complain about that. I've already said that this has a over 2.8 meters in terms of the wheelbase. So the space in here, I can't complain about it. They carefully managed to capture what you need to do or what you need to feel like when you have a family and you don't have to worry about anything. The 7-seaters, I mean, at the back, for me, it's one of those that, yeah, I think kids will manage well on long journeys. But I think when it comes to short journeys and stuff, you can still sit in there and you will fit and maybe not necessarily have a problem over like maybe less than 100 kilometers or something, but more than that, your knees would be bending quite tightly. I mean, the angle is quite tight, and I think after an hour or so you'd be complaining that you're cramping or something. But for kids, it's going to be fine. Again, you can still adjust the space at the third row using the second row seat, because you can slide them forward or backwards to see how much space you need, of course depending on how tall are the people in the second row as well. The headroom, I can't complain about it. I mean, this is a 1.7 meter high car, so when it comes to that, I didn't find any issues for myself. I'm like 1.69 meters or 1.7, so even people that are taller than me, I think they can manage when it comes to that. When it comes to the second row as well, you do find like these cup holders that are quite like, on the side as well. Even in the middle row, you can be able to open if there's only 2 people. In the third row, unfortunately, you don't get USB points to charge, but there's a 12V socket that you can buy, the aftermarket socket thing to charge, and then you just charge the phones from there. And then in the second row, you'll see in the driver and passenger seat, there are USB inlets that you can just charge. Currently, there's Type A. You can get a Type C plug, whatever, that adapter, and then be able to use that. When you come to the front as well, there's wireless charging. You can be able to charge there, and then 3 ports that you can use to charge here, including the one that is connecting Android Auto and CarPlay, which I didn't have an issue with. Once connected, it's only using cable, but I'm okay with that. But the spaces in the cabin are quite enough for you to put whatever you want to put. When it comes to the cup holders, when it comes to the bin here, the bins on the side of the door, I mean, everything else, I can't complain about this. This is a much more practical car. When it comes to the boot as well, you'll find that there is plenty of space when you are traveling in a 5-seater mode. But when you are in a 7-seater mode, that's where it becomes a little bit tight. But I think a suitcase put vertically will fit in quite well, because I just put like this backpack to show you how big this thing is. Otherwise, I can't complain. I think when I'm looking at it, it's the same space that I had in the Ford Everest. And you can imagine now that that car is quite big, and I'm not necessarily seeing that it's going to be that much problem. Otherwise, you can get a trailer, because this has trailer assistance and 2.5 tons towing capacity. That's a lot. Otherwise, when you pick it up, expect a 5-year or unlimited kilometers warranty and a 6-year or 90,000 kilometer maintenance plan. Not service plan, maintenance plan. Yep. After everything that I've covered, I don't think I need to put much more emphasis on the price and why it should be like that. From my side, I think this is worth every single cent that Kia is asking from you. With that said, I thank you so much for being here with me today. Truly appreciate it. Thank you. I am out.